Right.
So,
I got all the because it would be good to give it, I guess they use some on how the town does it. It has got Norton on it. What? It's got Norton on it. Oh, really? I don't know if that's a trial or, I don't know, or if it's, they're free, it's pretty good software. But the town has an IT person. That's not a thing. Oh, Bill, you want to sit down? Can I squeeze in? Oh, yeah. IT person will come in and just set it up with, you know, an admin account that's separate from the planning board account, you know, and let them. So then that way,
Town can support it.
right, exactly. You don't want to be on your own. I don't want to be my own spooky policy. What do you think to do to deal with that stuff? And if there's something wrong, we'll give it to them to do it. And then if somebody wants to come and do it for you, or know what's on the computer, then I'll give it to that person, let that person do it. So I'm not responsible for that. For other reasons too. Right.
It's in my office. I'll put it together here for you.
Oh, it's time for the meeting.
Bruce is going to be here tonight, right?
Yeah. I want to keep this. This is the account number. Probably know the account number. Just instructed me to keep for passwords and stuff.
You want to wait a few more minutes for that?
Eric, I didn't know what you wanted me to do with those ruler definitions, so I printed them all for you. Here. These you have to reference, they're not that order, which is nice.
Yeah. I was just thinking of like, if there's any definitions there it'd be
That we could use?
that we could use or that we didn't have or whatnot, that's kind of what I was looking
We
for.
got a number of them.
Well, they're pretty advanced on this. They call it an adult entertainment nightclub, bar, or cabaret. You still want to make sure they have their bases covered. They have adult amusement store, adult motion picture theater, and on-site adult video screenings. Adult relaxation spa or adult spa. They did go a little into detail, but didn't they? Holy smoke. They have under automobile, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They have 7 different types of automotive businesses. They got automotive graveyard, recycling business, repair major, repair minor, self-service station, service station.
Is that the new one?
Yep. And
Here's your copy of that.
Oh. Thank you.
Well, we can actually read this one.
I know, isn't it amazing?
Can we slide it to the middle of the table a little more?
We can slide the whole table that way. Or,
Oh, I'm just thinking so I can set up right here.
Yeah.
right, well then you're going to slide, go ahead, see what's going to happen. Go ahead.
we all can, you
And then we'll
also
move the
can
table.
increase the size of
Just
the,
turn, yeah, you're good.
you know, or your characters, what is it called?
I may have
Oh, I see.
somehow offset a little bit.
Level, it's got a level right there.
It's got the wires under it.
You can focus it a little further.
Pull the wire out, I bet it will. Okay, the table is not level right there somehow.
So there's a leveler right there on the back right-hand corner. You need a lower one where you are, Bruce, or raise one where Eric is.
This one won't go any lower.
Okay, so raise the other one.
Go down. And just get a little hook over there, toss it there.
Okay.
Was Joe going to be here tonight? I thought Joe at some point said he was not going to be here.
Workshop out
I never got this agenda.
This is like a lot easier to use.
I'd love to see it, really. I wonder.
Where did you get that one?
Everything was Staples.
At Staples, that's the one I was looking at Staples.
They had the same one at Best Buy, exactly the same price. So anyway, because they have an account with Staples, we were able to order it online or call them. And didn't have to go down and pay cash. Unfortunately, Staples doesn't have, I don't have the camcorder yet. We get a few pickups there, like not availability, out of stock. And Staples doesn't really have much in the way of
Well, that's why
camcorders. They're
when
not
I
much
needed my laptop for my work, I found the perfect one at Best Buy, and it was one of those, Levino or Leventro, however you pronounce their name now. Except they didn't have it in stock, and it was gonna take 2 weeks to get it, so.
You know, you say, I want that one right there, and they look down, oh, sorry, we're out, when you get more in? Well,
Yeah, when? Well,
well.
the usual.
Yeah, so, anyway, I've got to go to town tomorrow, and I'll see if I can, I'll see if Walmart and Best Buy again, maybe I'll find it.
That's why.
Well, an alternative that is similar. Yeah, that sounds good.
Try to anyway.
We're gonna go ahead and get started. So we actually have quite a number of things. So first thing we'll do tonight, actually tonight is supposed to be a regular meeting, but there was nothing on the agenda. So we're just gonna just blow right into a workshop. And I don't know, Richard published there was nothing on the agenda, but this,
So we don't have any, we got a couple of months of minutes that we still have been. And then she's
play
out.
those out. She has a funeral tonight. Next
We
week,
can take care,
we need to take care of that.
we can do it at a workshop? Or we have to-
Yeah, we can just, it's some minutes approval. If you can you see her this week? See if she can pull them together. And there's no minutes for tonight, except the fact that it's record attendance. And say that there was nothing on the agenda, so we're going to do a workshop. So, there's no like I said, there's no presentations tonight, but Paula did send some stuff last week. So where I posted it was where we have wind and sound information. And like I mentioned last week, I kind of separated some of this stuff out. I did put it into who it was submitted by. I figured out how to do that too. So under this main towns, Paula Kelso, I don't know, did you guys go look at this at all this week?
Yeah, I was wondering why at one point there was something that was submitted that had no relevance to our ordinance at all. And it had
What was
to do-
that?
It had to do with help and noise about a gentleman that had written a long dissertation or blog about his, how he had welcomed the wind farms initially, and then he found out, come to find out in the last paragraph, he read that he was within 2,800 feet of this wind farm.
He's
That was-
within 2,400 feet of two turbines, number 57 and number 75.
Right, so this goes in and it gets posted on the town's website.
Right, I posted it there because she submitted it, and it was about health concerns, and we did have some other stuff in there.
Yeah, the Ted Hack,
I think that was his,
yeah, that was it. That's what you're talking about.
That's right.
but we did have some other stuff that we had posted in the past, like this one's in the public interest. See if this one will. This was just like a guide, okay, this is like a guide, you know, written by the American Wind Energy Association. I mean, I just didn't want people to feel limited, not to figure out how to get out of this.
Yeah, it's Windows 8.1 is what pain in the butt, part of French. Control Alt Delete, and then go to
that's gonna get me shut it down.
You can tell it to run as
Try it
Windows
fall.
7. I know that's what my son did with his. This one actually got
Oh,
some.
wait, okay, there's like a little dude on the bottom, so I'll close that. And I'll go to that. What's this access privilege thing?
I have no idea. I wouldn't. I would not do it.
We are done, right?
Cancel that. Oh, okay, you go ahead and do that part then. Let me go back to this.
I've never used anything past next week.
So anyway, I guess, Bill, I mean, if you have a problem with it, I mean, maybe we should talk about
Well,
it.
at what point does it become just a method of putting, I mean, for want of a better, I mean, I don't wanna call it propaganda, but it doesn't have a thing to do with our ordinance, because our ordinance is not based on that.
I mean, I guess it was a public comment. I mean, I suppose instead of putting it here, I could put it on the public comments page.
I don't know how many people are looking at this, but,
Well, I guess when I read it, the problem I would have with it is it really doesn't apply to our situation at all. We've already agreed that people that are
Yeah.
that close have a problem, a legitimate one.
Right, no,
I actually downloaded the plan for the wind site. It's got like 130 turbines. And he's 2,400 feet from in two different directions, which makes it, I didn't do the figuring, but that would be like being only about 1,200 feet from one.
so I guess my concern would be if a citizen who's not well versed on what's going on in this town were to happen upon this and not read the whole article and get all the way down to and stop reading after, you know, just get tired and not read the last 3 paragraphs.
I suppose what I could do is, instead of putting it here, which is kind of reference material, this is what, I guess, I'll tell you why I put it here, because I initially was only gonna put it under the public comments. But, I mean, a lot of the stuff in here did kind of pertain to some other regulatory material, but she had some stuff from different towns. So then I thought I would submit it here, because, like I said, I'm open to how you want to store the information. I mean, we could have this page only for reference material that the planning board comes up with, I mean, that's a possibility, you know, and then have everything else go to public comments, regardless of what value it has or whatever, that's a possibility. But, or alternatively, we could put other reference material up. I guess what I was trying to do from the planning board perspective was not say that we're the only ones that are, you know, smart enough or whatever to put up reference material. I was trying to not limit the quote-unquote reference material to only the planning board. So if it looked like it was
Well,
some.
you certainly haven't done that at all.
Well, no, I'm agreeing, that's why I did it, okay? But I mean, you're saying now that you've got a little concern about putting this reference material up from Paula, you know, and you're thinking that maybe it's more, I mean, the only other, you know, I don't think we should not post it, okay? I think it should be posted someplace, that's definitely for sure. Okay, the question is where it should be posted.
Create a miscellaneous submission category.
Okay,
Things that may not necessarily.
that's why I did, it's places that are not otherwise filed.
Okay.
Yeah, it's hard because something like that really, in a way, you'd like to comment on it, but it really doesn't belong in comments because it's
Well,
not a
it
comment.
does, I mean, let's
It's
be
a
honest with you, I mean, in a different perspective, okay, I mean, if and I'm not trying to beat up on you guys some, but I mean, in a different way, if you take the information and you look at it, you just went through and said, well, why it doesn't pertain. So to me, it was more like, okay, validating that why we should be at 4,000 feet and not 2,000 feet like some towns are. So to me, you could take the information, put it up there, demonstrate why we're at 4,000 feet, and use it to prove the point. I mean, as opposed to being concerned because it's at 2,400 feet or whatever the number is, I think it's in that range. And clearly, we don't want anybody to do that.
Yeah, well, if you look at the map for that site, there's a whole group of houses right there, and under the Illinois law,
Apparently, you can do that.
yeah, you could do it. The sound level average is 55 dB approximately, or between 45 and 55 around their houses.
Right, so to me, it's something that you can demonstrate that this is why we don't do that, because this is what kind of problems you have if you go, because there's probably people in town that look at like Mars Hill and see places 1,200 feet away and wonder why we're 4,000 feet away, to be honest with you. I mean, just because the only people who show up at the meeting are people who want to be even further away, doesn't mean there's people out there who don't understand why we're 4,000 feet either. They just don't happen to come here. So, if you want me to move them, I mean, we can.
No.
Okay, that's what I said. So those are the reasons why I did what I did.
I guess the one thing that can be said is, we've looked at it and discussed it, and it really doesn't apply to us.
Well, the other thing I did try to do is I try to make sure that the stuff, when I post it, it's crystal clear as to, where it came from, or what it is. And like I said, and like here, clearly people see this is stuff that I posted. This is stuff from Maine government, and it says where it came from. This is stuff from Maine towns. It says how it got here in the first place.
Well, you've done a good job, I'm not
And,
complaining.
as we're sitting here discussing this now, and it comes more clear in the view, I suppose you could take your point of view that this explains the reason why, here's an instance why we felt that 4,000 feet was a better distance for our ordinance.
Right. That's my perspective on it anyway. So I just wanted to make sure that, you guys, if you hadn't looked at them, were aware of some of these postings that I got last week. There's also some stuff down here. I created a new category about these fires. Paula has submitted a number of different things.
When did these come in?
These were all somewhere around 26, 27, she sent them over to me, so I just posted them.
Oh, okay, because usually we get them in an email thing, and I didn't see them.
I think that they were sent out in email to everybody.
I didn't.
I'd say those are
Didn't she send them out in an email to everybody?
I saw one picture of Nassau that had,
Paul, do you remember?
I just send things to Debbie to forward to you, and what you do with them,
Right. I'm pretty sure I could go back in my work email and look, but I'm pretty sure she sent them to all of us. But she sent them out. I got them from the town. I didn't get them from Paula. And I posted them. So I just wanted to make sure, like I said, you were aware that there was this new stuff. So then, I also tried to, on the meeting material page, which is what we're going to do tonight, just to kind of quickly back up a little bit. On the workshops, we're up to the 5th today. This is kind of the overview of what we're going to discuss. And then, as I was pulling together material for the meeting, I posted on the meeting material page. And these are, on this page, I delete stuff, like sometime over the weekend or whatever, I'll probably delete this and just put stuff up here for next week. Next week, I don't think I'm going to be here Wednesday night. So I'll put up the articles that you're going to be discussing next week. And they'll be there. And also, I realized we weren't making use of this table here, so I went ahead and tried to make sure that I made notes to myself for what to talk about for these. Because I just had the option, I did priority just because I could, because it was built into the system. So not that I was being that bureaucratic. But anyway, so tonight, I guess the first thing we'll do here is we'll look at Article 8 proposals, and I just trying to be as informative as possible. That we didn't do a lot of content change, but I reordered it quite a bit. And then we should check on the dwelling definitions in Article 18. So if you look at the old version of this, I just didn't like the way it flowed, and so that's why I substantially changed that part of it. So I tried to, I didn't change these tables. The only thing, these comments I have here, I removed paragraph 1. What was that thing? Right, I just renumbered that paragraph. I'm going to print my comments over. I'm going to start forwarding and putting the Word documents up here. I know what this one's all about, though. For this row right here, for a bed and breakfast in GMA 3, I wondered why the code enforcement officer could do it in the more built-up areas, and then in the rural area for a bed and breakfast, why we said that the planning board needed to do anything. Do you remember why we did that?
I've got an old book, mine says, which one is it, conversion?
No, this one's bed and breakfast.
Converted, oh, okay, bed and breakfast. I got planning board all the way across, PL. That's what it used to be.
Oh, you know what, maybe I changed it to C and I didn't realize it at one point or another. Maybe, you know what, we talked about that over the year, and that's why how this got updated. So, for a bed and breakfast, do we want the planning board to review bed and breakfast or not? That's actually the question. There's a definition for bed and breakfast in here somewhere.
Oh, you just passed it.
Right there. It says that the maximum number of guests is 6 persons, not including children under the age of 12. Maximum number of guest rooms is 3.
That's a pretty small bed and breakfast though, isn't it?
Right, because beyond that, it would become more like a hotel or motel type of thing. I think we do those differently. These are, don't forget, this is for things that this is residential uses for this chapter. This is not their businesses. So, I mean, my thought is just like, why does the planning board need to get involved, I mean, for this type of residential use?
Well, if you change it, then you're gonna have to you're gonna have to look at every other one that requires code enforcement and planning board in a different light, because this kind of sets the benchmark as you're, looking down to
And maybe someone will like a
single-family detached dwelling.
home occupation, someone.
Well, right, that's what my point is. This is kind of like a home occupation. I mean, that's again, these are,
And you did say it's limited to 3 rooms and 6 people.
Right.
Does the planning board really need to be involved? I mean, the code enforcement officer would know what they need to upgrade their plumbing to.
right, that was my point on it. We're trying to encourage people to do home businesses. And I mean, if you think about it in a different way, there are some people who have, and he says not, go back to the guest thing. Maximum number of guests at any time is 6 persons, not including children under the age of 12. So, I mean, to me, it's pretty restrictive as it is. I mean, there's a lot of times, there's people who have, every single weekend will have a lot more than 6 guests at their house, and we don't regulate them.
The other thing is, Rick would have to, for something like that, make sure he watches things like the parking requirements and things.
Right, I mean, you have 3 cars.
Well, plus the people who live there,
Right.
so they've got to have a little extra.
Well, just put C in there, code enforcement officer.
I mean, that's what I was thinking, but I just wanted to see if there was something I wasn't
The
thinking
first
of.
question is, why did you leave the last one P?
Yeah, I mean,
Maybe because it's a rural area or something?
I don't know.
More sensitive, I don't know.
No, just put it
Oh,
on.
no, see, yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
okay, so it's
Done.
5 March.
If anything, they're gonna fit in better in the more rural areas where there's more space.
Well, that was my thought too, that's why I couldn't figure out why it wasn't done, that's why I asked.
That could be, if you're down on a good road or something, maybe.
Yeah, perhaps. Well, sometimes in the past, we were we just did stuff because we thought it should be done, and other times, I don't know, just we weren't always consistent in our methodology. So while we're on that topic, conversion to a multifamily dwelling, P. Now, this was like a little bit of an interesting issue. I know why we said P in the first place, but just as like a little pop quiz here, why do you think it should be P? First of all, what do you think a multifamily dwelling is?
Was it one family?
Well, that's actually not correct.
That's a duplex, but.
Exactly, so it's a multifamily is more than 2, right? That's 3, okay, 3 or more. So,
Could be both. Could it not?
well, hang on, why do you think 3 or more is important? Bruce.
Well, you start getting into code.
Subdivision law. Subdivision law is 3 or more lots, it's the 3 that kicks you into this stuff. So, one thing when you're dealing with
But this is one dwelling, and
Yeah,
but it's three, but it's not gonna be one anymore, it's gonna be three dwellings
Under one roof.
under one roof.
Right.
But the kicking into three dwellings can put you into subdivision law. So that's one of the things we're gonna talk about a little bit later, because what you can do is you can use home rule, and you can say, instead of, if, in the state law says, if you use subdivision review, if you have rules that are as stringent as subdivision review for multifamily dwellings, that you can use those rules instead. So in other words, what we probably want to do with multifamily dwellings is to put them in the site plan instead of subdivision. Just makes it easier for people. Because otherwise you end up having to do two different pathways. It's a law, you have to look at it, it's three or more dwelling units. It changed over in 1989, something like that.
so where are you proposing to move this, from where to where? Which right now is a residential use?
Well, it's a residential use, but it says planning board approval. Okay, and the question was on the floor was, why was it planning board approval? Well, it's planning board because the planning board by law has to do subdivisions.
Okay.
So that's
See, I don't
multifamily.
see it as a subdivision though.
Well, I agree with you from a practical perspective.
Because an apartment building often will have, the standard for small apartment buildings is 4 units.
Right.
It's definitely not a subdivision.
Yeah, actually it is. Because there are 4 dwelling units.
So why don't they, when somebody wants to build an apartment complex in Bangor or Brewer, have to go with subdivision law?
Because
rather
they
than-
use home rule and they have a statement in their ordinance. I went over this with Linda over the weekend, but I didn't kind of catch on at first because she just had this exact problem in Brewer. That this guy has, the old subdivision, there's someplace in Brewer, there's an old apartment building somewhere, and it came up. Well, anyway, that's how this happened. So their attorney said you've got to go to subdivision review because they're adding a dwelling unit. And then Linda pointed me into subdivision law, and sure enough, it's just right there.
Which means if you put it under subdivision, instead of just making it an apartment building, you're literally going to require them to have a 10-acre parcel of land for a 4-unit.
Well, no, you can put it, yeah, well, you could do that if your ordinance was a little bit messy, that's correct. That's why it'd be better to put them under site plan. Because the law says, we'll look at the law later this evening, okay?
Yeah.
But I'm just telling you, that was what the trigger was. So we haven't done subdivisions for a long time, we probably need to go to a planning board
You're
workshop
basically
again.
making it impossible for some, if you put it under subdivision, you're basically making it impossible for someone to ever put up a
It
multifamily.
can become difficult, right, we don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Because clearly this is the type of development that you could easily have in town.
Mhm. I'm sure Rick could say how large a septic system and things would have to be.
Well, yeah, that would all be something you could work out. It's like, basically, minimum is like 90 gallons per day per bedroom. Actually, though, I think in multifamily apartments, I think they make them go up to 120.
So for now, let's leave it the way it is.
Right, we'll leave it the way it is. But then home occupations, and, I guess the question was if they should be combined. I mean, there really isn't a huge difference between the two of them. I mean, it sounded like we were trying to do something, but
does it really have to keep them separate?
Okay, do we have to go to Article 5 to find those?
Right there, right there.
Oh. Okay.
so should the definitions be in Article 18? And I just questioned, I don't know, maybe they should be separate, but like Vern said, is it doing harm?
So leave it. We get 2 definitions,
And then we probably should put those definitions into
18.
18. Right, Bruce? And the same thing with the B&Ds, maybe? I don't know.
Do you want to start defining terms rather than just words in the definitions? That's,
We already do that.
yeah, actually we do. If you're gonna be consistent, probably you should.
I guess the home occupation too does kind of vary a little bit.
So if you did put in definitions, you'd only have the lead paragraph in the definition.
Right, or just the stuff in pink.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I'm just gonna write down here, keep them separated.
The biggest distinct difference is the employees between what you've got right now, between level 1 and level 2.
True.
So let's leave the 2 levels.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably a good point. So, all right, then the next row was, I don't know why we said no there. Maybe we should leave it no for some of the reasons that Dave was kind of mentioning earlier, back roads and stuff. You get into GMA3, I mean, do you want somebody to put in a big multifamily dwelling?
I thought they, wasn't GMA3 also didn't have regular utilities, like
Yeah.
power and things like that?
So that's probably why we want
Because if they ran power to it, wouldn't that make it a GMA2?
to, probably,
I would just think of it because of the lack of services in general.
yeah.
The distance in the rural areas, fire protection, I mean,
So leave multi.
Get back to the subdivision.
So I didn't change anything here.
wait a minute, because I get some scribbles. So the setbacks, side and rear setbacks, did they go to 10?
What, on this table?
Yeah.
Okay, what should go where?
Minimum side and rear setbacks. I thought we changed that from 20 to 10. Didn't we have something before us?
We did at some point.
We talked about it. We had a request, and I thought it was from your neighbor there.
Right, no, you're right, it was. But we didn't, so that would be on table 8.2. I do remember that now.
Side and rear setbacks, number 10.
And Rick has said it would be okay.
10 looks small, but you add it, the other, each one has to have 10, so it makes a total of 20 feet.
There's a lot of small lots,
Yeah, no,
Right.
existing lots.
I don't have a problem.
Okay, that was the side and rear, right?
Right.
Everything else is okay.
So this kind of changed up. We want to keep that? Yes, no? Okay. So one of the things I noticed going down to 8.3 is we have this burden of proof line. It's like all over the ordinance, and I said it's used prolifically throughout the ordinance. Should we even have it? If we do and we want it used everywhere, why do we just not put it in the front somewhere? Like when would we not have the burden of proof on the applicant? Like this says it like all over the place. And it just comes up sometimes randomly. Like for example here, it comes up here, but it doesn't come up in any place else inside here. In some chapters it just appears in a paragraph.
Sounds to me almost like it's like boilerplate that just gets moved along as people write these ordinances.
I mean, I think it's something we should probably look at. I mean, I think it may be in the front of the, or in the front of the entire land use ordinance, we should just write it once and then call it good. It just seems,
Unless otherwise noted, burden proof is on them.
yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah. And then if there is an exception, we would have.
Accept it.
We would,
You know, one thing that I've been wondering about, you know, under that minimum lot area,
Hang on. Okay, on the table above us,
yeah,
okay.
how do those really make sense when you think about it? We've not allowed multifamily in GMA 3 because of lack of services, but especially in GMA 1 with your minimum lot area, you pretty much made it impossible in most places.
Have to have a 2-acre lot.
Well, no, for two-family duplexes and multifamily, you have to have 3 acres plus, if you have a 4-unit, you have to have 4 acres.
Okay, so let me read that thing.
And if anything, wouldn't you want to, if you had multifamily dwellings, want to concentrate them rather than make them spread out?
Kind of goes backwards because you would think that there's more larger land lots in GMA 2. Yet you're cutting back the number of units permitted in GMA 2. The NDA is non-developmental acres, is that what it is? Yeah.
Net development.
Net.
Trying to make big green spaces, I guess. So this will be a duplex. So you're saying, okay, so if you build a single-family dwelling, I'm reading this now, I'm just trying to interpret this thing. So if you build a single-family dwelling, you have to have 2 acres. If you build a duplex, you have to have 3 acres.
And also to do a conversion, you'd have to have 3 acres, which pretty much means any of the original, any of the lots that have been sold recently in town, most of them are only 2 acres. You've pretty much made it impossible for anybody to do.
So maybe what it should be is, right, you can't do a conversion. So I mean, actually now that you read it, I mean, it doesn't really make sense, because if you're gonna convert a single-family house into a 2-family house, you know, and you bought your single-family house on a 2-acre lot, you wouldn't be able to do like one division of it.
Change it to 1 acre.
The other thing about that is, if you wanted to encourage any low-income housing or anything, to take care of those people that are low income, requiring large lot sizes pretty much eliminates that option. Because for beginning family, if you wanted to have some apartments, or even elderly residential in town, they don't need or want huge lot sizes. What they need is a small, compact,
Right.
where you have somebody take care of the services.
Well, how about,
I mean, I'm just saying, there's an inconsistency here.
well, I'm agreeing with you, because now that I read it through, I mean, well, at the minimum, I'm thinking it should be 2 acres, I mean, plus let's say if you were gonna go with this theory that you had to have more land to have, you know, the multifamily dwellings for the moment. From an academic perspective, it should never have been 3 acres. It should be, if the minimum lot size is 1 acre, is 2 acres, and a duplex, you want them to be able to do a duplex if they want to, it should be 2 acres. That's the minimum change that should be made right now. Now, if we want to go down to 1.5 acre lots or 1 acre lots or whatever, that type of thing, that's for discussion, but the minimum logical and rational change is to change 3 acres down to 2 acres, just because that's the size. I mean, even look at GMA 3, on that one, it was a 5 acre lot, and then we said 5 acres for a duplex. You know, so that actually at least matches.
Yeah.
So I think that was probably something we should have put a little bit more thought into.
Well, you know, the feeling has been for a long time that somehow you're supposed to maintain this rural character by spreading things out. But in reality, that means you just got a house every 500 feet instead of every 200 feet. Or the real reality is the lots end up being spaghetti lots,
Or something.
and there's still a house every 200 feet on the road. You haven't really maintained the rural character, at least not from driving through. It's turned out to be one of those ideas that's been self-defeating, at least
So,
in
do
application.
you think that,
I say change it to 2 and change the NDA to 1.5.
well, hang on a second, let's see where the map.
Now, I can see needing a certain amount of extra acreage for the larger, if you had 6 units, because you're gonna need a larger septic system at this point, because we don't have public sewer. You're gonna need a larger parking, you are gonna need some.
Okay, so if we were talking about GMA 1, basically, this is what we're talking about right here. We're saying here that we would want,
All of that bright yellow, that's just the,
right,
that
one
area
village
right there
is
is
1A,
village.
right,
It's
okay,
limited
this,
residential there.
right, I'm sorry. Right, that, everything that's got any kind of yellow in it.
You already have a definition for what you can't do.
So you're saying,
I think if you go back to your table, it says you can't do more than duplex in limited residential.
in GMA 1A,
The village. GMA 1 village, which is that kind of brown area where you live.
okay. So, okay, so let me pull that back up again.
I'm sorry, Eric, can I say something?
No, you can't, no, Paul, you're cutting you down. Go ahead.
If you're thinking of doing something about that, could you check with the cluster development provisions first and see if, because that was, the cluster development is an incentive to not use big pieces of land.
Right, you're right, but the cluster development, we'll go look at it. There's a couple issues with cluster development. First of all, I mean, generally speaking, I'm generally a fan of cluster development on paper because I've never actually seen it done in reality. We did it when I was in Plymouth, and we put that in. And then when I worked with different towns, when I worked at Pliscon years ago, we always encourage, when I was trying to do ordinances, we always encouraged it, and everybody always hated it. And then last time even in the late 90s when I was on the board before, and then there was a gap and came back, we brought it up.